Hey, what's going on, guys? This is CJ. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I went from an all in one water loop to a custom water loop. Well, a slightly custom water loop. So, you guys have asked me to do custom computer parts and videos in general. So, I thought I would finally start learning how to do custom water loops and show you guys on my trial and errors to hopefully avoid them. So with this water loop, it is not a full water loop. This is a really good way to learn. And for myself, I thought it was a really good way to learn as well, to kind of get familiar with the fittings and the tubing more than the pump and reservoir and radiator all kind of separate. So what I have here, guys, is a AlphaCool 360, and it is an all-in-one system, but it actually has a quick attachment that you guys can add to it. And or the radiator actually has the ability to put on full size fittings and do what I did here. So the AlphaCool 360 is around $120 to $170 USD, depending on where you get it from, and of course if it's used or new. And maybe sometimes Amazon has some deals that you can actually purchase it. So just keep shopping around, and hopefully you guys get a good deal. I bought it from my buddy. Thank you so much, man. Shout out to you for 50 bucks, and it works absolutely phenomenal. I did have a couple issues with the fans. I had to use a thumb screw, or I had to use thumb screws, I guess, to actually screw in my fans, which was kind of weird, and none of my other screws worked. And I have a huge box of screws. Other than the AlphaCool 360, I have a Primo Chill tubing and Primo Chill fittings, and I use the 3/8 by half an inch, I believe. And they are actually really good. This is soft tubing, as you can see. This is flex tubing of theirs. I think that's what they actually called it. I'm not going to PETG for the first time. I think I'll wait up until I actually learn a little bit more, and hopefully you guys actually enjoyed this video and it helps you out. So if it does, hit that like button down below. So with this build, I did not actually put a kill coil in, as a lot of people say to put some type of metal in your loop so that debris actually builds up against that metal, and then you don't have that going through your loop. Because this is an all-in-one, I didn't really think it was needed, and I also forgot. So I just left it the way it is, and I guess I'll let you guys know later down the road to see if it actually roaded anything. I think the biggest issue that I had was with the fittings, thinking that they were not tight enough, and honestly, I did crank them down a lot more than I probably should, but the water block, per se, and the pump together are plastic. The screw or the threads are plastic, I feel like. So when you screw it in, you actually had some wiggle room within that screw. So once you screw down the fitting, you can actually move it back and forth. And I felt like the O-ring was not doing its job. So I kind of cranked it down a little bit more I should than I should have, as they everyone says to do it finger tight, and I kind of took the tubing and stuck it on the fitting and just kind of turned it a lot more than I probably should have, like I said. So far, though, been testing for 12 hours and there's no leaks, even after playing a game the next day. And once again, no leaks, and it looks really good, and I'm really happy with it. Super proud of myself. I think the biggest worry that I had was the fact that I didn't think the fittings would be tight enough and that it would actually leak water through. As when I put the fittings on, and or just kind of slightly put it on the threads on the block itself, there was like a lot of play. And then when I screwed it down, it felt tight. I could see that the fitting was slightly crooked, and then the block was flat. And I could literally take the fitting and move it back and forth, and I thought that was for sure going to leak. So I tested it outside the machine, and it had a 10-foot worth of tubing. So I just cut that straight in half, connected both the reservoir, or the block and the radiator, and just let it test outside of it to see if it would actually leak. And luckily, it did not leak whatsoever, even with it tilting back and forth with that much play. I feel like it would leak, but I guess the O-rings worked out. I did tighten them a little bit more than I probably should, as a lot of people are saying to do it finger tight, and I kind of use my wrist tight, as if I could, grip it. I couldn't grip it that well. I didn't use any tools. I just used my fingers and used my wrist to actually tighten it down. I would advise you not to do that, as with the block, it has plastic threads and you could probably crack them and cause a lot of issues. So probably don't do that, but do test outside your machine for a little while, and then actually put it back in the machine when you feel safe about it. Another thing that I did was to clean the reservoir and the radiator, and Primo Chill came, I didn't know this before at the time, but when I ordered it and it got to my house, I opened it up and it came with this solution to put in 1 gallon of distilled water or some other fluid and then have it run through your loop for 12 hours to actually clean it. I only did a total of 5 hours as it's an all-in-one, and I'm pretty sure all the metals are already working, and I'm pretty sure that's the only reason why they're cleaning it and make sure they have all the residue out of the radiator and tubing. Other than just using the thumb screws for my fans for my radiator and then thumb screws on the front side to actually mount the radiator to the computer, it was really easy. And honestly, the only other thing that I really had a big issue with was putting the tubing on the fitting while it was inside the case and then taking it out to test it. And while tightening down my fittings, actually turned the tubing and then kind of kinked everything. So I had to turn the tubing the opposite way and then tighten it down, and then the tubing would kind of go into place where I actually want it to be. Other than that, I mean, I'm actually really happy with it, and I would definitely advise you guys to buy a funnel. Don't use what I used. This is what I used, and this is for hair. This is the only thing that I had on hand, and I would definitely just go buy a funnel. It would make your life so much easier. And with this, you could simply, it just kind of sprays out, and it sucked. It is not a good idea to use something like this as you get a lot of water everywhere, a lot of water on your ground, and definitely don't do this if you're filling up the reservoir while it's in your machine. I'd also advise you guys to just simply take your power supply out or unplug it and then jump the green and black cable so that you can just turn it on and off while you are filling up the reservoir. All in all, I'm super happy with it. It looks absolutely amazing. I have my theme, purple to blue, and it looks really good. After adding the purple fans, the purple tubing, and the fittings, I thought maybe even the blue fittings might be kind of cool too, but now that I think about it. And then the purple cable, I added the blue cable and then also changed my motherboard LED to blue static instead of the RGB, and it actually looks really good, as you guys will see at the end. I hope this video helped out. If it did, hit that like button down below. Consider subscribing for more computer videos and game related stuff. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.